Hello, you are there.
I am here, I am ready, and we are a little bit early right now.
I know, man. I've been pushing the envelope today.
I know. Are you, like, you got big plans today or something? I mean, I don't know that I've ever got a text from you that said, hey, can we go a little early today, especially on Monday?
I know, man. I drove back last night, and as you know, I was exhausted, so I hit the rack pretty early and slept pretty decently, you know?
Oh, hey, well,
it was one of those things.
Then we might as well get started, because I got to take advantage of it when you want to get things rocking before 9 a.m.
I know, man. That those rainy drives can really take a lot out of you. I gotta say, if Ironman would have been controlling my brain before I started that drive home yesterday, they probably would have canceled it. And I had, the flashers. I bet I had the flashers on for 30 to 50 miles yesterday.
Guy? You're a flasher guy?
Everybody was a flasher guy.
Everybody.
Yesterday.
Okay, so it was storm. Okay, so
it was just storm. Like, it wasn't like lightning, really. It was just pouring. I mean, it was 45 miles an hour max for a long, from Bowling Green almost all the way to Nashville.
Dang. That's intense.
I was laughing, man.
Your text didn't sound like you were laughing. Your text was like, worst drive ever.
It was.
But those are the worst, because you have to, I mean, long drives in general are exhausting, but then like when you add in like rain and, emergency hazard lights and stuff like that, it wears you out. It's kind of weird that you're just sitting there, but yet you're just totally mentally exhausted. But I'm glad you made it back safe, and we hope everyone had a safe and fun-filled weekend of great racing and good times. Welcome. Crushing Iron Triathlon Podcast, episode 275?
Yeah, 275.
God, we are like inching closer to 300, which is awesome. And I want to give a quick shout out before we get rocking. Yes, we come to you every Monday and Thursday and have for what's going on 3 years, and as we said, 275 episodes. But I do want to give a special shout out to the people who have given us some iTunes reviews here lately. We don't probably bring those up as much as we probably should, but as a podcast that churns out 2 podcasts a week for free, the little small things like iTunes reviews really help us reach further in terms of connecting with more athletes and more people, which is ultimately the reason why we do it in the first place. Even if this is your first time listening, we don't do sponsors, we don't do things like that. So we don't need those reviews to generate dollars. We like those reviews to help athletes who haven't listened to us before connect when they're searching on iTunes for triathlon podcasts, and help us turn us this direction. Hopefully that we can help them out through this, what is kind of a labor of love, but has turned into something a little bit more and a little bit more exciting. But so I just wanted to say a special thank you to the people that have taken the time. It's fairly easy, it's fairly quick and painless. So if you haven't and you've been listening to her for a while, or even just a short time, and you enjoy what you hear, please take the time and give us a review.
That's an excellent idea there. I got to tell you. And I know every time I go to a race like that, it's, I really don't like to use the word humbling, but it kind of is when people are coming up to us, or me and us or whatever, and saying how much they get out from the podcast. So I really appreciate that, meeting a lot of new people over the weekend at Louisville, Louisville, our team race.
Clue everybody in about your weekend. I haven't even heard much about it. We were on 2 different ends of Kentucky doing two very different things this weekend, and our team was competing all over the country. But I know we had a huge race and an awesome time at Louisville, and there was Eagleman, there was Wisconsin 70.3, there was Ironman Boulder, there was Cairns. It was a super busy weekend across the world. It seems like, and a lot of racing. Was one of our busiest weekends yet. But I know you were on the ground there in Louisville, spectating and cheering and coaching at the Louisville, which is kind of a local race company to us here in Nashville, and they do a really, really good job of putting on really awesome events that I've been to and participated in. And I know that yesterday there was a kind of a fear that the rain or thunderstorms would put a damper on things. But it looks to me like everything turned out well, and I know the race went on without any kind of shortening or cancellation or delay even. So it looks like you guys looked out.
Yeah, as far as I know, I don't think it rained the whole day. It was supposed to, of course, and
yeah,
I found
until
it.
You drove home.
Yeah, the old weather. There was a big weather billboard right above the run course or bike course, and I kept thinking, the most accurate app ever, but they just totally missed it. Most forecast. So anyway, I have a lot really to say, but first thing I wanted to say to you is, our focus going into that race, you and I as a coaching focus, to put the overall priority on the aqua bike, that really paid off yesterday. We focused mainly on aqua bike and the relays, and of course we took home the podium number 1 and 3 in aqua bike and overall relay.
Yeah, well, those guys like to have fun and do what they can, and they let it rip yesterday.
They did. No, the Tri Louisville, it was they did a great job. I really wish I had a better handle on what kind of current is going on in that river. Like if there was like an accurate, you can just go. Why doesn't somebody have an app for that? You can just go find out what the Ironman current swim current.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that'd be a very lucrative.
Probably
lucrative
not.
app. It's probably be about as lucrative as our podcast.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know the conditions. I saw a video that you posted of the part where they were swimming against the current yesterday, and it looked like it was. Listen, on any race like that, if you get both ways, even most of it was downstream. So as long as you were able to and had the ability to get the upstream part, you were going to reap the benefits on the downstream, which from what I saw, everyone did. In terms of overall pace, everyone did a really, really good job of at least getting upstream. But then I know a lot of athletes I saw, at least on Facebook, were commenting about how they saw a lot of people were just totally toast after just making the upstream, and were able to kind of just make their way downstream without too much extra energy.
You okay over there?
Yeah, I was going down the stairs. I think my mom's dog is like going insane right now, so I'm gonna go let him out so he doesn't disturb the rest of our podcast. I mean, I'm out of shape, man, but I'm not that out of shape.
I didn't know if you were like changing or something.
I'm changing to my podcast outfit.
Well, I fully admit that I probably need to let this go. But one of the things I wanted to do this weekend was actually go swim in that channel, because last year Louisville swim got canceled at full Ironman, or it got shortened, and I have had an internal debate in my head for almost a year on this thing. So on Saturday I went down to the channel with a few people, and where you normally would swim upstream behind the protected island at is it Towhead Island? In Louisville. Anyway, they wouldn't let us swim up it last year. So this year I went down there. And frankly, it's been raining a lot. So the current has been, I think, and we saw yesterday, I don't know if you could notice how fast the people were moving downstream. So the current was there. It was pretty strong. And so the day before, I just went out there, and it was a wetsuit swim yesterday, and it would have been at Ironman Louisville, but I jumped in with sim shorts and no wetsuit, but I wanted to swim up the channel or the protected area and see what it was like. And so I jumped in, that middle dock there, it's about halfway up, about 450 yards to get up to the corner of the island, and I swam right in the middle of the channel. I didn't go over by the where the current is probably even less, but so I swam right up the middle just to see. Plus, I was a little bit nervous of swimming in the muck over there by myself. But anyway.
Yeah, the Ohio is a whole different.
Yeah, the whole thing was a little bit. I mean, honestly, I was out there by myself for a little bit, and I was swimming up that channel. And I get how people get, the anxiety of that is a little weird. As I got closer to the channel, the current really got harder. It got harder. It's noticeably harder once you get up toward it. the end. But my point is anyway, it took me about 9 minutes to get up there, about 425 to 50 yards. 400. And then I turned around and it took about 4.5. So it was like twice as.
Yeah.
But the point was I think I was my average, because I stopped my watch when I got up there just to see, and my average pace was 2:08 per 100 yards. Big deal, right?
Big deal.
That's no wetsuit swimming up that channel. Anyway, I wanted that to sort of be a little bit of a lead-in, and I want to tease for later that I actually ran the new Ironman Louisville run course too, so I have a little bit of feedback on that.
Dude, you are a man in the know right now.
Well, I shot pictures and videos. I'm going to write a blog about it. I'm not going up there to screw around. I'm working. I'm doing research. I'm trying to, it kind of dawned on me is like, why do I care about all this stuff? Like, but as a kid, man, I used to do like all these things, and I'm sure you did too. And it's like when you make up games and have like races and fun stuff like that, you want to make them as fun and as cool and as interesting as possible, right?
Yeah, I don't remember playing a lot of games when I was a kid.
Well, we used to do like
I'm kidding.
Superstars. Like we'd make up like challenges and races and do all this stuff, and we would incorporate the most like interesting terrain and just different options as far as all that went. And I think that's what's still with me. And while I think Ironman is they just do an amazing job. I just think that sometimes that they're, they kind of maybe get a little lazy with some of their stuff. So
yeah, Ironman has become, it's no longer an event. It is flipped the shark to, it's totally now just a brand. It's a brand and a business, like 90%, and they're more concerned with the marketing and the expansion of that brand versus the integrity of what the race started out as back in the 80s and 90s. But
yeah,
I'll get into that later.
Well, yeah, as something challenging and interesting, and you've got Louisville's an awesome city, and now what they're doing with the run course, I really can see it. It makes sense. I mean, because when they block, they must have to block off like 100 street corners on the traditional marathon route.
Oh, I mean, they suffocate the whole downtown.
Yeah.
I mean, they really do. I mean, and that's why it's always been so much fun with that atmosphere right downtown in Ironman Louisville. In case you're just now listening or you're not doing Ironman Louisville, so you're kind of disconnected from the changes. They just recently did a big change to the run course that used to be. I don't want to say it's primarily downtown because it's not. And as much as Ironman Louisville is a pretty cool run, it's not the most spectator friendly anyway. And you go out of town and the old course, it gets kind of lonely. I mean, the big draw for Ironman Louisville is for, I think, most people is the fast swim, if they have it, and then the finish, which I think it's one of my favorite finish line areas of all the races I've ever been to. And so that's the big draw. But I know that the city has been kind of the city officials maybe versus the police department and the amount of hours and money they have to allocate to that. And I think the financial situation there in Louisville, we have a huge contingent of athletes in Louisville, and they are much more in the know than we are. But they've communicated to, I know, both of us that the city of Louisville in general is not doing that fantastic financially, and so they're looking to make cuts. And while Ironman brings in a lot of money, they probably want to see they need to see as a city a more viable return on their investment to probably help out where the city has been headed from a financial standpoint. And so, as I know, the event is up for renewal, or if they're discussing it or negotiating it, and I imagine this is a negotiation play. We'd love to still have it here. Ironman makes money here. The police department doesn't really want it there because they have to allocate more hours and street closures. So this run change, to me, looks like a compromise in, you can keep coming and having your event here. We're going to save money. You're going to bring more people. It's going to be even more of a net positive for the city without the headaches. And while Ironman is compromising, this isn't an Ironman decision, which I think is something else we should probably talk about towards somewhere in this podcast about the brand and the business of Ironman gets a lot of flack, and deservedly so. But when they dwindle things down and they put individual race directors in charge of decision making, and then you have other aspects like the Coast Guard or city officials, and in Louisville's case, you have to make compromise. And as a business, you have to compromise to make sure you're ensuring the viability and sustainability of your business, which is what this is. And local races like Louisville, that smaller race management companies, they don't have that luxury. They a canceled swim for a small race would be an end all be all. The people might not come back. But so this run course change for them was, I think, a negotiation play, and hopefully it makes everybody happy, because I would personally, I would love to see the race continue. I love going there. I love spectating it. I love the town just like you do, and we have a lot of athletes there. So they made that run course change to what to me looks like a little more spectator friendly, and going out towards a different part of town. Which, hey, hopefully we can hear a little bit more about it as you give us your semi-course preview and then read your blog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think it'll be a whole lot more spectator-friendly. That part of it is definitely a plus.
Can I ask you a quick question, though? Because this is what all the inquiring minds want to know.
Mm-hmm.
Do we still get the views of Churchill Downs?
No, that's gone.
Okay, so it's the same
spectacular
as before.
view.
Okay, sweet. Okay, sweet. It's the same. Because you and I think I've done it 3 times. You've done it, I think, 3 or 4, and I still to this day couldn't tell you what Churchill's Down looks like. No. I didn't even know that it was on the course or where it was. I just knew they had it listed, but their listing of the views that you used to have of Churchill Downs are also pretty much the same as their description of what the weather is like. So, don't take Ironman Louisville's description for what it's worth. Much like the way Ironman Muncie 70.3 used to be listed in their description guide as a flat run course, and shaded. So yeah, we'll move on from that. But don't believe everything you read. Ironman descriptions are kind of like the weather.
Yeah, I mean, I love Ironman Louisville, right? So as I was really putting some thought into this, because I ran out with. So the new deal is you'll run out of transition and basically stay on what is either River Road or the Greenway, bike path, whatever you want to call it, along the river for quite a bit of this. I didn't go up that way. I went down the other way, which goes past the Crab Shack thing where the swim exit is. Mm-hmm. And it continues along the river down that way. That was the way I was more interested in, because we kind of know what is up River Road, and we've been that way, and you kind of I vaguely remember that park on the right-hand side as you go up there, and that's where part of the run is. But I went south, or whatever way that is, away from the and it's a bike path, or a path that kind of runs along. I got to be honest. I mean, I know what they're trying to do. I think they're trying to revitalize that whole corridor with parks and things of that nature. But as of now, it's got a long ways to go. So it's basically an not abandoned, but sort of desolate railway area. So you run along an old railroad track for a long, long way out to this park that
I feel a quote unquote park on that one.
Yeah. But you can see what they want to do and see what the potential is. But I think I ran a little bit actually further than the route now that I look at it this morning. But the whole way, what my biggest concern is, I have no idea how they're going to light any of that. It is all pitch dark, and in October, your darkness comes probably 4:30 or 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So that whole section will have to be lit somehow.
A little bit later there, but not much. But yeah, I mean, I think 6:30 would probably be the latest.
Yeah, and it's not as far out as I thought it was initially. So, but here's what I was thinking, because yesterday after Louisville, we all walked across the pedestrian bridge to I think it's Jeffersonville. I don't know if you ever been over there.
Yeah, we went over there to meet Wes Keane and a couple other athletes. Maybe Adam Embry went across the river to Jeffersonville to eat at that
pizza place.
No. Oh. We ate at a Longhorns.
Oh, but did you just walk over there? It is a sleeper little city. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, so maybe we're looking at Ironman Jeffersonville?
No, but I thought, since that whole run is so flat and boring
Mm-hmm.
in that regard, because that is the other input that I do have, is that
Mm-hmm.
will be a flat run still, as you hope for, most of you probably, but don't realize that that's probably not the best thing for you. It's nice to have little hills here and there, but
It is.
that pedestrian bridge has that big sort of circular climbing hill all the way up, and then that drops down into Jeffersonville, which is a cool little town. It's got some cool stuff going on with these funky pizza places and whatever, and shops. And I thought, wow, how cool would that be? Because that's 1 mile over and 1 mile back, and if you threw like another mile over in Jeffersonville, that's like 3 miles. You wouldn't have to go quite as far out either way, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And you could keep it even more spectator friendly. And I also thought, well, heck, you're basically taking the whole course and throwing it onto a greenway. Why not like leave a few blocks of the city in there? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or a mile or so of the city vibe. And why does it have to be so dramatic and drastic and all change?
I would imagine a lot of it has to do with just because that's over into Indiana, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure that's got a lot to do with it in terms of having to
add another state
in their politics and police department and whatever.
I'm sure it does
to do it. But I have heard that if they ever do a 70.3 Louisville, which has been kind of a chit chat, that would be part of what possibly could be some of the courses going over into Indiana, maybe. But yeah, anyway, that's it's not important because it hasn't happened yet. So, but yeah, I agree. I think that new run course is going to be somewhat more spectator friendly. I think it could be congested. There, as you kind of get into the later parts of the night, but or maybe the second loop, or how many? I think it's 2 loops now. But I also think that's also a good thing with athletes that may be out there a little bit later. So there's going to be more people to see, which I think is sometimes like we like, events to give us plenty of space. But let's be honest, the run course is always going to be congested at some point. You're always going to have to be running around people, no matter how many loops it is, and you're never going to get one that's one loop. So the second loop or anything after that's always going to be more congested. So it kind of is what it is. But I think the course change is going to be a good thing for the city and for the race in itself. And I do, like you said, you and I both love that city and love that race, and I hope it continues to flourish and they continue to have it for the next few years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really all I got to say. I think overall it's probably going to be better too. I just wish they, because everybody's like, oh, it's so boring running out to those streets way out there in Louisville. I got to tell you, it's not going to be much more exciting running along a train track for 2 miles either. It's not like that is going to be electrifying, especially when you can't even see the river after dark or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's the same. I personally enjoy urban situations more than I do, like a Muncie or whatever that's just all out into the greenway. I like the idea of a city vibe. So. But, whatever. I'm just nitpicking here. I think it's probably a good thing overall, because they will be running around the city and you'll be able to see them multiple times. And, it is hard to spectate that traditional Louisville course. But moving on to the pressing issue, I think, of the day is another canceled swim at Eagleman.
Another canceled swim. Honestly, I don't want to say that I'm over talking about it, because I'm not, but there are so many things to take into account at these races, and there's so many things to, I think there's so many different agencies is probably the best way to put it in terms of safety, and you're going to see, it's going to continue to be an issue, I think, for Ironman and their events, and I think the more they tend to call swims, and I do think that I had an athlete that said it's not RD dependent, it's Ironman making the call. I don't know that that's actually true, because I know that there's so many different issues. I think the RD makes the call, and I think the RD makes the call as best they can. Because remember, like these race directors, while they're employed by Ironman, they're specific to this race. Like they have this race only, or they have a couple races, and so they hope to get picked up to put on a race, and it's their individual decision. And I know I had another athlete text me yesterday that did Oceanside, and they were like, they didn't have volunteers out there. They had like the ocean, like a rescue squad out there, and the sea in the open water there was much more difficult than you would have seen yesterday. But there are just so many different things you have to take into account with the swim, and there's there's watercraft advisories, there's wind, there's chop, there's current. But if we really want to talk about like what the real issue is, for the most part, it all comes back to the same thing, and it's all comes down to preparation. And you can't always put the onus and the blame on the swimmers. Do I still think to this day that most triathletes take their swim as serious as they should? No, I don't think they do. But as a coach, the only thing I can do is continue to make the swim a priority, not just because the swim is part of triathlon and it's part of what will set you up for success for the rest of the day, but it's also because I want the athletes that I work with to be the most prepared they possibly can be. Because I don't want them to be pulled from the water. Because I don't want them to be excited if a swim gets canceled. I don't want them to be pulled from a race because they can't make it. It's important. It's important for a reason. But I also think that the thing that sometimes I think we don't think about is that Ironman employs hundreds of people every race, and they don't pay them anything. And they're called volunteers. And while I think if you think about it, it's a brilliant model. They have employees there on site, but for the most part, the majority of their quote unquote staff for the day are people who volunteer their time. Mm-hmm. And they volunteer from a wide range of abilities, and experience levels. I mean, you could go to the athlete check-in, and this is nothing against senior citizens, but you can go to the athlete check-in, and your check-in people might be from like the group nursing home out for a field trip that day. And They might be the ones doing your check-in. And people who volunteer to kayak, and this is where I'm getting at, like the volunteering at aid stations and stuff like that, you've seen kids do it, you've seen other people do it. There are certain aspects of the race where you can get away with volunteers, and you need to have that opportunity available for people to volunteer and for people to give back. That's important to the sport. It's important to the foundation, and that the core of what these races are about, which is letting people give back and participate and get a taste of what Ironman does and help out other athletes in their local community or friends that know they're going to be racing. It's important, and I think it's a great way and a great opportunity to allow people to give back. The areas that are of the utmost importance, however, are like, I can't go and be like, hey, I really want to give back today, so I'd love to volunteer in the med tent. They're gonna be like, okay, well, where are your credentials? Like, I don't have. I just want to do it. I just want to give back. I just want to volunteer. I mean, I don't have I didn't go to med school, but I can carry a banana bag. That's it, right? No, you have to have a medical degree, a license, something. They'll probably do a thorough, hopefully, background check to allow you in that medical tent to help people. Here's the kicker: after the fact that they've been injured or hurt or overheated or whatever. Getting people out on the swim course that are experienced kayakers or medical professionals or have a generally manage whatever kind of craft they're in, whether it's a stand-up paddleboard, whether it's a kayak, whether it's in a boat or a jet ski or anything. These people need to be trained, because we're going to continue to see things like swims getting canceled and people not being prepared. And then you're going to have situations like, unfortunately, you saw at Wisconsin 70.3 where one athlete passed away and then another athlete had to be rescued and pulled from the water. And
in Wisconsin? Yesterday?
At Wisconsin 70.3, you had an athlete getting pulled from the water, rescued, and another athlete passed away. Now there's a huge discussion that also needs to be had because these aren't these aren't drownings. These aren't athletes that aren't prepared. These are mostly, I think, probably 9 times out of 10, if not more. I don't even know that I've ever seen a woman pass away in a triathlon, even though I'm sure they have. These are almost always 35 to 65-year-old men. And there are 9 times out of 10, if not a higher percentage, cardiac events, which I think is something else that we should definitely cover, because I think it's important in terms of, again, the overall theme is what I like to call is just being prepared. But you have to have rescue crews there, not Joe Bob, the local triathlon club, secretary who's out there who wants to get back for the day. He's not going to know jack crap about what to do if somebody starts to struggle in the water. It is a very, very difficult situation to manage. And you have to, I did ocean rescue for 2 years, and it's exhausting. And you have to be prepared to exert every ounce of energy and strength you have to literally save someone's life. 9,900 probably times out of 10,000. These people couldn't do that if their life depended on it. That's also not their fault. It's Ironman's fault as a brand and as a business for not choosing to employ people that need to be on course to provide the most amount of safety possible to the most, I don't want to say most dangerous part, but the part of the race and the event where the most things can go wrong, where you have the smallest, most thin margin of error. It's almost zero. And if you don't have, and it's like going back to where everybody had complained, we kind of joked about it at Ohio 70.3 last year. It was like the Ohio 70.3 kayak armada that was out there. But you know what? How much safer did you feel? They had so many kayaks out there. They could have gotten to everybody. Now, were they certified medical? Like, I know they can't have a doctor in every kayak. I'm not saying that, but these people need to be experienced. So what happens is Ironman also has to cancel some of these swims because they know that the people that are volunteered can't handle it. And that's the layer of preparation that I think they need to go to a different level if they really want to continue to provide a great product and provide opportunities for athletes to express themselves. Because listen, guys, it's not always about your safety. That's like me telling my child that, Hayden, you can't go ride your bike because it's not safe. Or I just didn't choose to buy a helmet and put it on him, therefore making it safe. So there are different layers to be considered, and obviously if the Coast Guard says they can't be out there or you can't be out there, it is their water, we are borrowing it, then you can't do it, which was the rumor that was on at Eagleman yesterday. But I also know from the athletes that we had there, they changed the course the day before, and 3 athletes told me specifically, they also basically said you can stand up at almost every single point along the 1.2 mile course. Don't see how that's much of an issue, but you're still at the mercy, if that's true, of the Coast Guard. But I think when it comes to supporting athletes, a couple years ago, the Ironman started this swim safe or swim smart initiative, and that lasted for about 2 seconds, because an athlete checklist on the front of the athlete guide means absolutely jack crap.
Right.
They and Rev 3. God rest her soul, who is no longer with us, also tried to do some of the same thing, but they had I think a coach the day before come out and do these open water swims. That's also, guess what? That's also too late. There's just so many things that I think we could all do to be more prepared. And I think we can all individually do things in order to, I think Ironman has to step up at some point and put more people in more places to make these a much safer opportunity, and then allow us to do the things that we train to do. Then we have to take it upon ourselves as athletes to be as responsible as we can, to train well and not be lazy about it and take it seriously. That also goes to preparation of athletes, that especially as we get older, to get yourself checked out. If you've had a family history of a cardiac event or you've had something issue, then get yourself checked out. Because these athletes that unfortunately pass away and die, they're in shape. It's not like they couldn't finish. They passed away because they can't do freestyle and the seas were rough. If the seas are rough, guess what? They wouldn't be swimming because the Ironman would have canceled it. The conditions yesterday in Wisconsin were absolutely crystal clear, perfect. But you still had people. The what water does to people is what, and the amount of the room of air and margin of error you have to assist and essentially rescue or save someone is zero. And you have to have so many people in their places, and that's why I think that they pull the trigger so much, is because they know right now they don't have that. And again, it's an us problem. It's not an Ironman problem. It's not a triathlete problem. It's an all of us problem. And I hate continuing to beat a dead horse about it, and I don't really want to anymore, because the only thing that I can do as an athlete myself, as a father, as a husband, is do my own due diligence to make sure that I'm prepared, and to make sure that I'm set up for success in terms of when I go out there. Listen, I'm as comfortable in the water as anybody, and I never have a fear of any kind of water. But I still make sure, and I still treat the water like it's a different animal than the bike or the run, because I have that much less control when I'm in it. But so I can do that for myself. Then as a coach, I know that I need to prepare my athletes as best I can, athletically, physically, mentally, emotionally, to set them up for success as well, and do things that I know hopefully will help them be able to, participate and then do well in the swim, but also just generally make it through. Because so much of it is mental and emotional, and it causes anxiety and it causes panic, and all these things, they just compound. And I don't know, even though there have been studies, there's so many things that go into these unfortunate events where people pass away. And I have to, is it a combination of a wetsuit and panic and anxiety and being out of breath and going from zero to all out in just 200 seconds. And I also got to believe that the limitation on, I'll think this again, this is about preparation. This is all on Ironman. This is all about venues. This is all about setting people up for success, is the fact that they continue to suffocate the opportunities from athletes to get in the water and warm up. Before these events, they're going to continue to see an increase in rescues and, unfortunately, probably deaths if they don't find a way to allow athletes to get in the water and warm up, to get in and get loose and get in their wetsuit and get this out and get, warming up on land with your cords ain't gonna cut it. They need to get in the water. They need to warm up. You need to get that lather going. You need to get that anxiety out of you. You need to get that speed up. So when you get in the water, it's not a suffocating, anxiety-induced panic. And until they're able to change those things and make those adjustments and provide more opportunities for the safety of athletes, because stop telling me it's about safety. It's not. It's about lack of preparation on their part. Things are going to continue to go this way. Yeah. And as athletes, there's nothing that we can do individually except for take care of ourselves, go to your doctor, get an EKG, get yourself checked out, make sure you're good to go, make sure you're physically fit, train hard, be smart, and do the best you can. And that's all we can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The thing of it is like, I think, and I wrote this in my race report after Chattanooga swim got shortened. They took out about 400 or 500 yards of it at Chattanooga 70.3. And I wrote in there, because what happens is like, okay, now all of a sudden it's just a downstream swim. So there's immediate relief that runs through the crowd. Everybody that was worried about it is not worried anymore. And one of the things I said was that whenever that happens, which it's happened the last 2 races I've done where the upstream portion has been taken out at Louisville and Chattanooga, the first thing I say to myself is, Mike, do not take this lightly just because it's a downstream swim. At Chattanooga, you're still jumping in a raging river and swimming 15 football fields, even though it's short. And I know a lot of people that I've talked to have had anxiety battles and all kinds of freakouts, even though it's a quote-unquote easy swim. It's 1,500. It's a mile swim in a river. How many times did you do that before you got here? None.
At a solid pace, not going around and
with
not
people
splashing
all
around
over
with
you and whatever. And that was the thing about Louisville. It was rainy and kind of misty and foggy and really rough current. And I'm sure a lot of people got whisked away and they just were like, oh, I'm just going to cruise down a mile or so down this river. It was intense. And if you're not warm, I mean, everyone I talk to is like anxiety battles because I've been through them majorly in my triathlon career.
Mm-hmm.
And there's two things I always tell people no. It's like if you can't get in the water, you need to warm up so much that you're sweating before you get in with the arm circles and whatever you need to do. If it's a little jogging, I don't care what it is, just get warmed up because it's like a 180 once you feel the cold water hit your body. And the next thing you know, you have to swim because some guy's on top of you. And, the whole thing can really go haywire in a hurry. And the other thing is, like, I just, like, do, like, some, what do you call like halfway bends at the waist to kind of get your blood moving up to your head a little bit because a lot of people get dizzy and kind of have these weird things. I'm not saying it is the end-all answer, but if you can kind of start that process happening by bending over and just letting the blood flow to your head a little bit more because you're going in horizontal, your body's not used to it, and all of a sudden you're going to be going, like you said, 100 miles an hour out of the gate with coldish water and waves all over you and people and kayaks hitting you in the head. Who knows what's going to happen, but it's like it's not like just walking into a beach and just like breaststroking out to the deep end. You know what I mean? You're going on. It's on right now. So you better be ready.
It's just I think that's probably why it probably aggravates me so much as a person who's always swam is just I think you said it is even when, and I get it, like everyone's level of commitment is different, but I 100% agree with you that we have now just kind of come, oh well, it's downstream or it's cut short, so it's easy. Like, if that's the way that you look at things in life, then, good luck ever reaching your full potential. Because that's just not a great way, to look at anything. But when you're, like you said, I think if you now want to sit back as a triathlete and as a coach, I take tremendous responsibility. And it absolutely chaps me to no end when I see or read other coaches telling triathletes just don't spend that much time on the swim because it doesn't matter that much because all swims are downstream because all, they might be in the wetsuit or might be in salt water and they're going to get canceled and you can't win the race on the swim, so you don't really need to worry about it that much. We don't really need to swim that hard. It's about preparing your athlete to the best of your ability. And for athletes that are self-coached, it's about preparing yourself to the best of your ability and doing things in training that are so much harder than you will encounter on race day. And I love it when I get a hold of an athlete and they're like, they do one work and like, that's the hardest I've ever swam. Good. Because now we're making some progress. And I know that at least when I lay my head down at night before a race, I know that I've done everything in my ability program-wise or through a camp or through an analysis or through a conversation to set the athletes that I work up with for total success on the swim. Now, whether they do all the swims or not, that's up to them. But I know I've done my due diligence and I've fulfilled my responsibility as a coach, as a friend, as a mentor, whatever, to put them in the best possible position to not just do well in the race, but to do well in the swim and to, be a triathlete because there are 3 disciplines in it. And then also when I don't pray for a rough swim because I just don't do it because I think it puts other people in danger. But when situations are more difficult, I'm like, you know what? Good. Because I know the athletes that I work with are going to be more prepared than the other. So it gives us an athletic advantage. But if you're a person who's self-coached or you don't take it seriously, then you need to start. And it's not just it's the other thing that really just chaps me about it is that your personal neglect, and this is outside of athletes that have cardiac events and have issues like that, because those don't come down to how many times you swim a week. That's one of those things that right now, triathlon in general as a sport, we can't explain fully besides what happens after the coroner's office and they release a statement and it's a cardiac event, which is usually what happens. We got to figure out what's happening. And we know it's dudes and we know their age, but if you don't prepare yourself, and you could have, and you're perfectly fine and you just didn't take it seriously, and you just need to grab onto a kayak because you didn't prepare the way you need to, then you're taking away an opportunity for that person to help save somebody else. And I just think it's a tremendous amount of responsibility that we have just totally just glazed over and not taken the path in the way that we need to, because now we've flipped the shade from, anything is possible to, if you work hard at it and you do the things required to get there, to now it's like everything is possible because we will allow it to, and you can do it. Yeah. Ironman is supposed to be hard, and I think the barriers of entry should be more difficult. Not difficult as in you can't come play with us, but more stringent in terms of, in order to set yourself up for success, to take care of you, and also not putting yourself in a situation to where you're going to be a danger or take away from the rest of the people participating, then things have to change. Something needs to be altered. Something needs to be addressed. There needs to be more of a programming. There needs to be a more just for overall success. And you would think that race directors as a whole or individually would think, you know what, I get it. Like I want to breathe easier, because for a fact.
Well, yeah, that's such a great point, man.
Like you got to know for a fact that like when everyone gets out of the water, nothing happens. Then they breathe their first sigh of relief. They're like, oh, God, thank goodness. And then obviously the biggest one ever after that is when athletes come off the bike. Because, there are things there are things you can't control. Somebody nips your wheel, a car, something like that. It can happen. And, eventually those are going to happen by accident, by carelessness or whatever. But it's you got to think from a race director standpoint, like, what are you doing? Like, what are the things that you're doing specifically at your event to make sure your athletes are set up for success? And I just think that if you're gonna have like this like swim smart initiative, it can't be a freaking checklist on an athlete guide. That does nothing for anybody. You need to put things in place. You need to put opportunities in place. If you're Ironman or you're USAT for this, time to try, women for try, everyone needs to try. Well, you know what? You guys need to try harder to reach more people and make things serious, whether it's offering open water swim clinics around the country to different groups held by people that you can trust, to put people through the ringer, to host clinics, to host weekends, whatever it is, to put people in the best position to succeed, because it's not just about them individually. It's about allowing people into the events that by their mere carelessness and lackadaisical, lazy attitude that don't take things seriously is going to end up taking away an opportunity for someone else. And I get it. That things are going to happen, I get it. Things are going to happen, no matter what. But it's on us as athletes, too, to do the best we can to prepare ourselves fully.
Yeah. Well, it's weird, man. Like, when I was a kid, they wouldn't even let you go in the deep end unless you could prove you swam back and forth a couple times across the pool. And now all of a sudden you can do an Ironman and swim 2.4 miles without even proving that you know how to swim. In a raging river or a rough ocean or whatever the case may be. So this kind of all sort of circles back into this idea that we have talked about on here many times about this competitive wave, or this idea of qualifying for an Ironman by doing a half, or qualifying I don't know how you could do the half, maybe with an Olympic or something, but some kind of a system that doesn't just allow you to go from 0 to 90 in, 6 months. Because I think overall it's bad for the sport in general, because like we talked about many, many times, is like if you go in above your head and maybe you do this one and done kind of thing for Ironman, you don't want to do the sport anymore anyway. So it's better for everybody involved if there's sort of a gradual ramp up. And then secondly, it's better for everybody involved that is really trying and wants to do things that are difficult to have the opportunity of a competitive wave that allows them to do the actual whole race, even though conditions, quote unquote, are a little bit rough or whatever the case may be. This is like rough ideas, but the idea in general, going back to what you're saying about the race directors, is like I feel like it's just splintering all over the place, and there's so much unknown now that they're going down the road of it's just easier to cancel because I don't want to have to deal with any potential fallback. And the more you do cancel, or the more you do shorten, the easier it gets. But I don't think in the long run it's really solving any problems.
Well, and I mean, let's be honest. If and then that's why I said these decisions, and first I just want to say that Mike and I are all about safety. But
oh yeah, we have to reiterate that again.
we are 100% all about safety. And so, and it does. It kind of gets on my nerves. People are like, but I applaud them for being safe. But again, it's like telling your kid they can't do this because you chose not to buy them a helmet, so they can't ride their bike because it's not safe. Like, it's also on us. I'm all about safety too, but I'm also about doing the best you can and learning from mistakes. But when you're a huge brand and business like Ironman, guess what? You just don't care. Because if the event continues to sell out year after year after year, when swims are canceled, why should I think twice about canceling it? Because dollars will keep rolling in, and I just cut out part of the event that's going to give me the most anxiety. Whereas shorter races and smaller races that are continually going by the wayside and continuously getting, just on the chopping block, and they're going by the wayside because people are participating in these bigger events because the brand and the market of Ironman has become so dominant that basically if you're in triathlon, you don't do one, people don't even think you're doing one. But smaller races like a Triathlon Louisville, like if they cancel a swim, then people are like, well, I can go find something else to do. Whereas Ironman has become so large and so dominant as a brand and as a business and as a event management company that there is no other like, oh, well, I could just go do another challenge race,
right?
Or I could do they're becoming, I think there could begin a shift as we get moving forward in terms of other event companies beginning to sell out and do bigger and better things, and it's like, can you imagine an Otillo or however they're pronounced? Like, can you imagine them canceling a swim for rough seas?
Yeah, no, I can't.
That's because they don't. Like, they put people out there with, like, do you think about the routes that they do? You can't have kayak and support for the entire thing. But I think they also have the confidence knowing that if you're signing up for this, then you mean business.
Mm-hmm.
Versus triathlon now, it's like, let's all sign up for a 10-week to Ironman plan where we just do everything easy, and then we can basically walk our way to the finish line and still do it, and then now we're good to go.
I wish that Ironman would just take us out of our misery and just go ahead and introduce the Ironman Duathlon series now and get it over with.
Well, they might start buying some duathlons. I mean, they might as well. It's becoming their largest race production. But I get it. I know there's so many moving parts. It is why there's no right answer. And I don't want to keep dwelling on this
I don't either.
Every month. But it's just there's so many things that just so many things that can be done that maybe I'll send them an email. Be like, listen, I know this is hard. Why don't you let C26 take over your swim preparation? Let's go.
No, I totally get it, and I get there. I empathize or sympathize for their situation because it is tough, man. It's a tough one. It's just that, like you said, man. I think this.
Maybe we should email Ken.
Okay.
Be like, hey, Ken. Ken's a race director at Ohio 70.3 who we hope to have back on the podcast here in the next week or two, who I have to say did a marvelous job at the event we were at last year, outside of the post-race food, which is something that we're negotiating about. And he is an absolute great guest. He explained things in a way that was just incredibly informative. I would argue to say that if you listen to that podcast, you can just skip the athlete briefing. He does not want me to say that, probably, but
no. See, that's going the wrong way.
Yeah, but he's a great guest. But maybe I'll shoot him an email and say, hey, because there's not a legit practice swim in Ohio because they've already have the reservoirs open. But maybe we'll reach out to him since you and I will be up there. We have a ton of athletes, and just say that maybe we can offer a free day before clinic with some tips for anybody who's signed up, and do our part to help set people up for success, even though the day before is not going to give them much time. Hey, it's better than nothing. So maybe we'll shoot him an email. But yeah, I don't want to talk about it anymore because there's only so much we can do. But if we all do a little bit better and we do the best of what we can, I think it'll still put everyone else and us as a whole in the best shape, in the best spot to hopefully, turn this trend around and do the best we can within the opportunities that we're given.
Mm-hmm. And let's face it, it just makes the sport more enjoyable when you're up to speed in the swim. I've learned that the hard way. When you're comfortable and more confident about the swim, triathlon is way more enjoyable. It just is. You can kind of take that little variable out of your morning anxiety bag and just be like, I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be a fun day. Or do you want to be laying in bed all night listening to the raindrops and the thunder and worried about getting in a bad mindset? I just think that for us to take responsibility of becoming good swimmers. It's not like you can't do it. If you're doing triathlon, you can get better. If nothing else, you can get stronger and more confident where you're relaxed. You might not be the fastest one in the water, but it makes the sport 100 times more enjoyable when you don't have to worry about the most worrisome part of the event.
Yeah, or because it is the sport.
Yeah, well, that's
swimming, cycling, running is the sport.
That is the sport.
So if you, I don't know, really want to find your full potential, then treat it as such. Moving on. Next topic.
Next topic is we're gonna sign off. Or should we?
It's been an hour. I keep looking at my laptop clock, and it's like 9:32, and I'm like, Jesus, we've only been talking for like 30 minutes. I feel like we've been talking for an hour.
Yeah,
and I started a little earlier.
We really have, but no, I do feel humble. I mean, whenever you go, it's just humbling to be around that kind of good energy. And I was just up at Tri Louisville with all our awesome people and just the event in general. And triathlon's such a good sport. And I don't want to come across as, I know that we kind of, I don't know, what is it? Firm but fair on these topics. Because we just love the sport. And I think that it's the passion part of it is that we want to, just keep making sure that it gets, some of these things get the attention they deserve, and they want, and they become better. And I don't know.
Listen, everything, no matter what it is in life, not everything is always perfect all the time. Everything has room for improvement. I have room for improvement. You have room for improvement. We all do in every aspect of life and all that we do. So, yeah, I think it's perfectly fine to challenge something and be like, you know what? It's actually not okay. Yeah, we can actually do better. It's not about bitching and moaning all the time. It's about seeing a need for something that needs to be changed and addressed, and let's problem solve and see if we can do our job as athletes to do better. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's why hopefully you're listening, is that you want to find a way to set you up for success to do better.
Yeah.
And there's always an opportunity to push the envelope and not just be comfortable and set in our ways and letting everything happen and be content. Because that's when you're either moving forward or you're moving backwards. There is no really in between. And I think we should always be finding a way to push ourselves out of our comfort zone and do things that we've never done before and find a way to do better at the smallest little details that add up to the most amount of success. And that's the way that you should approach everything. That's the way we try to approach this podcast. It might rub people the wrong way sometimes, but that's fine. If we can push somebody to do something they haven't done before, and hopefully it sets them up for success. Again, we're not experts. We are not doctors. We are not dietitians. We are not professionals. But we've done this for a long time, and I've coached hundreds of athletes, and especially when it comes to swim stuff, that we want you to learn from our experience and the things that we've gone through and the athletes that we've worked with. And hopefully you don't have to make those. And you can hopefully make changes or make alterations or make adjustments to whatever you're doing in your personal life, your professional life, your triathlon life, to turn things around before they need to be totally flipped, and or turn things in a new direction or make a change before, you hit your triathlon rock bottom or something else happens. And that's the purpose of the podcast. That's why we come to it with the consistency that we do. That's why we come to it with sometimes the intensity that we do when it comes just not for triathlon in general and the technical aspects of the sport, but also when it comes to dealing with the deep down, dark, hard things we have to deal with in everyday life. And that's why it's important. And honestly, like, if we don't talk about it, nobody probably is, because we're not going to fill your head and your news feed with pro athlete interviews and 10 ways to lose 78 pounds on a keto diet, only working out 3 times a week. Mm-hmm. That's just not what we're doing.
Yeah. And again, let's just clarify. We care about safety.
Which is why we're talking about it.
Right. I mean, it's like, do I walk outside bare feet? Sometimes, yeah. Not probably the best move ever, but life is just unpredictable. Life is about taking chances on certain things or whatever. And, prevention is definitely the best cause or cure for everything to me. Is like, be ready. That's what we're trying to say.
Yeah. If you go skydive and the guy doesn't check your chute, are you going to be like, no biggie?
No biggie, but he'll be out there. Maybe he can catch you afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this thing is like, we're totally about safe. That's why we're bringing it up, because there's so many other things that can be done versus what we're doing that you wouldn't think would be that impossible, Mm-hmm. But anyway, we digress.
We digress.
We appreciate you listening. If you've never listened before, subscribe, listen, review on iTunes. Let us know what you think. If you've never visited our one-stop shop, which is crushingiron.com, you can head over there. It's got all the information you need about our training camps, swim and triathlon camps, our blog, videos, swim analysis opportunities, coaching and training packages, our club, gear, you name it, we've got it. Go there, click on it, and see if there's anything that you like. Whew.
Yeah. Phew.
Yeah. I've only had 1 cup of coffee today, too.
Really?
Yeah. Well,
should we do another cast in a few minutes after you have another one? Congratulations to everybody that raced awesomely this weekend. We had, would you have, like 50 athletes racing?
It was a busy weekend. We had more good results than I can even announce.
Oh, yeah. It goes on and on and on and on.
But, yeah, awesome weekend, and love watching everybody perform, and have a little bit more to say about that on Thursday.
Yeah. Okay. All right, everybody. Have a great day. We will talk to you soon. See you, buddy.
Go swim. Go swim.
Yeah, go swim. I'm going to go swim.
Good. Go
See
swim.
ya.